Serious? What's the creepiest, scariest thing you've seen but no one believes you? I saw a panther-sized black cat darting out of a water retention artificial forest near a school in the desert. Logically, it shouldn't be able to survive there, but holy crap, I saw it. Animal control wouldn't let that exist. There isn't really food enough for it, and the summers get dangerously hot if you've got black fur. Must have been 4-5 feet long. It doesn't make sense, but I 100% saw it, and so did the friend I was with. East Coast US here. For years we were told cougars don't live here. Local trail cams disagree. Life finds a way. Not quite sure how young I was at the time, but it was probably between 5-8. I was in my babysitter bed at the time in her trailer park. It was 3 AM. I had woken up because I had to pee. When I woke up, I looked down the hallway to see my babysitter leaning against the wall like one of the stereotypical cool guys do in movies. And I made eye contact and I felt my body go cold because she was still sound asleep next to me in bed. I went under the blankets trying to hide, and when I looked back she was gone. I didn't want to sound crazy, so I've never told anyone. I just sat in her bed watching infomercials until 6 AM when she woke up. Never even thought about sleeping there again. I honestly forget how much this affected me until I started writing this. Really freaked me out, man. I forget the name of it, but there's something that happens rarely after you wake up. You can feel like you are still in a dream and you can have hallucinations. I woke up to something. It sounded like a door shutting. At first I thought it was a dream because I could hear it in the dream as I was waking up. Kinda like when someone calls your name when you're dreaming. But then I looked at my cat. His hair was completely standing up and he was beaming at my bedroom door. This was the moment when I got really scared because I know animals can pick up on that crap, and I thought he might know something's wrong. My cat doesn't do this type of thing unless a dog is in the room. So I looked over at the door, and the only way I can describe it is it looked like it was swaying. Slowly, like it was breathing, like someone was standing on the other side of it trying to hear if I was awake. This swaying was accompanied by a shadow. I don't mean a supernatural shadow, but it looked like the shadow of a person behind the door. I was paralyzed in fear. I lay there for 5 minutes naked watching this door away. I considered yelling and trying to scare them away, but I was terrified someone might respond. I legitimately thought this was the moment where I will have to defend myself or be killed. I don't own a gun, but after 10 minutes or so I mustered up the courage to check every room in the house. I freaking checked every corner too. But there was no one there. I don't know what happened, but my evolutionary traits kicked in and I completely believed someone was outside my door. Just after high school, maybe 6 months or so after 9/11, I was a van driver who drove the meals for Meals on Wheels to the place where they get packaged up and taken for home delivery. Anyway, the delivery van only had an FM radio and I was listening to 92.5 FM. When all of a sudden the station cuts out and a transmission that I can only describe as an American version of a numbers station began playing. It was seemingly random numbers followed by a long period of the same phrase repeated over and over again. The phrase was "they took the crosstown bus," over and over again. None of the other drivers heard it, but man was it creepy to hear. Eventually the regular radio station came back on and they never mentioned anything about it. This happened in October of 2005. Dates of the 9th, 11th, and 16th are repeated in various places across the internet. It was heard on many stations in the Northeast US. Broadcasters say it was a malfunction of the Amber Alert system, but it was several times over a 2-week span in different markets. The scariest thing I saw was at the age of 16. I woke up early in the morning, 4:35ish AM. Me and some friends were supposed to go on a road trip for the weekend. We had a long enough ride to one of the stops we wanted to visit, and didn't wanna be there too late. I look out my window and it's still a kinda dark outside. I walk downstairs and see wet footprints all over the house, and suddenly a big man, like 6'7". I was around 6'1" at the time, just bolted past me and out the front door. Not really creepy, but I shat at least 5 bricks and bolted upstairs to my dad. Nothing got stolen, but things were scattered all over the house. Not really creepy, yeah dude. Seeing a random 6'7" big freaking man in 5 AM is just normal, I guess. Fishing on Lake Minnewanka in Banff National Park with a good friend, about 50 feet from shore, around 8:30 PM. I see glowing red eyes, up in the trees, like red Like Predator I guess. I do a double take. They are gone. I decide not to say anything. Maybe I'm tripping. Did just smoke up. Nope. 5 minutes later my buddy says I just seen some glowing red eyes up in the top of those trees. I feel goosebumps. Yup, I saw them too. We look back and they are gone. We decide to aim the boat towards the shoreline. It's not dark yet but sun is going down. We saw nothing. No owls. No goats in the trails. We didn't get off the boat but we had a good look around. When I ask him about it, this was around 10 years ago, he just says he doesn't want to talk about it. I can't blame him. But after all these years I've never heard or seen anything like those glowing red eyes. 30-40 feet up in the trees, staring at us. I copied and pasted this next part. I knew nothing about the history when we went fishing there. For more than 100 centuries, people hunted and camped along the original shores of Lake Minnewanka. The Stony people called it Minwaki or Lake of the Spirits. They respected and feared this lake for its resident spirits. The early Europeans called it Devil's Lake. I used to go camping there. I do not anymore. Mostly because it's bear country for most of the summer. But yeah, also because of those bright red eyes. I will never forget that. Most surreal thing I've ever seen. This was 4 years ago. As I was walking on the sidewalk on a busy afternoon, I saw a suspicious boy man about 18 yo. He was 10 meters away and walking what it looked like towards me. I kept my eyes on him despite the fact that he wasn't looking directly at me. His eyes were roaming, jumping from an object to an object. As we approached one another, half a meter away from each other, he takes out a knife and tries to stab me in my left side. He wasn't really fast, so I easily dodged it and immediately turned to see who is he, or if he is trying to stab me again. To my surprise he continues walking and after a couple of meters he stops, turns around, smiles and gives me thumbs up. Then he continues walking in the opposite direction. Till this day I don't know who he was, what he wanted, and even my family doesn't believe me, because if someone wanted to stab you, you can't stop him. You aren't experienced enough to dodge it like that and something of that kind. The description of his behavior made me think maybe he was on drugs, but holy crap, that is terrifying. My neighbor was dying of a heart condition about 6 years ago. He knew he was, so he was giving away his valuables to people he trusted with them. Neighbor gave me his tackle box. He loved to fish. I would see him come home from fishing every day and he'd just sit on his porch and skin fish. I just put the tackle box in my closet and didn't really do anything with it since I don't fish. Anyways, soon after, he passed away in his home. Exactly a week after that, I woke up to the tackle box at the foot of my bed. Weird, but my stepdad likes to mess around. Figured it was him, so I put it back. The next morning, I wake up, it's at the foot of my bed again. So, I asked my stepdad what the deal was, and he had no idea what I was talking about. To test this, I put the tackle box in a spot that he wouldn't find, nor would he attempt to get it, under my bed, all the way in the back against the wall, and I put stuff in front of it to conceal it. Next morning, nothing. Okay, I guess it was him. Didn't give it much thought after that. 3 days pass. I wake up one morning and there it is, at the foot of my bed. Frick, now I'm starting to freak out. So I did what any rational person would and I went fishing with it. After I went fishing, I put the tackle box away, and it hasn't moved since then. It's still there. You know what would be cool, is if you found somebody who really loves to fish, and then pass this tackle box along with the story to go with it. Would probably make your old neighbor happy. I spent one summer in high school living with my aunt and uncle and keeping their 7-year-old daughter for them during the day while they worked. I was up late one night watching TV in the living room. The living room was right off of the kitchen, separated only by an L-shaped bar. I saw my cousin, out of the corner of my eye, walk down the hallway from her room into the kitchen. It was way past her bedtime, so I told her she needed to go back to bed. When I didn't hear her answer, I got up and walked around the bar and into the kitchen. There was no one there. I checked under the bar to see if she was hiding from me, and there was no one there, and nowhere else she could have gone from the kitchen. I walked down the hallway to her room, and she was fast asleep, snoring, so there was no way it was her. It baffled me, and freaked me out, because if I didn't see my cousin, who was the little girl that walked into the kitchen, several years later, I was talking to my aunt and she nonchalantly brings up the ghosts in her house. I laughed it off and she said, "No, I'm serious. We have a ghost. Your uncle and I both have seen her and heard her. We call her Giggles because we hear her giggling. We usually only see her in the hallway before she disappears. All of a sudden, I remembered the disappearing girl in the kitchen. I asked her what her ghost looked like. She said she had blonde hair with braids and wore a white dress. My cousin is blonde. On the night in question, I thought I'd seen my cousin in a nightgown walk down the hallway, but apparently it was the ghost that resides in my aunt's house. This happened to me last year and I fully understand why no one believed me because it sounds ridiculous. Every morning, I need to wake up at 5 AM to get the 5:30 bus to the train station to go to university. I had to be there by 8 AM, but I like to get there half an hour early. To get to the bus stop, I have to walk down this bike path and under this bridge to get to this quiet backstreet road. There is frick all light on the bike path. This street is dead quiet. The right side of the road is a continuation of the bike path, and the left is a normal footpath with a long green hedge. One morning, I was standing there waiting for a bus and this old woman comes walking out from under the bridge. I didn't see her at first because as I said it was pitch black on the bike path. She crosses the road and walks up to me. She asked me if I knew where X road was. I turned to point in the direction of the road she was looking for. I turned back and she was gone. This old woman who was walking at a snail's pace disappeared within 3 seconds. I grew up on a 2-acre home with plenty of trees and room for an 8-year-old to run around. Our house also was heated in winter by a wood fireplace, so we would periodically cut down one of our own trees to save money. Well, for about 2 years, there was a stump less than a foot tall near the house, and at least once a day, without fail, I would see someone standing on the stump. Usually it was out of the corner of my eye, but once or twice I looked directly at him. I always looked away quickly, cause it startled me and he was gone, but my sister says she experienced the same thing. Nothing ever came of it though. Didn't see it but heard it. My friends and I got a cheap set of walkie-talkies from Walmart and were playing around with them in the middle of the day. There's a bit of silence as we're trying to figure out the volume and out of nowhere there's a male voice saying Mayday, Mayday, Mayday that comes through all of our walkie-talkies and it definitely sounds like it's from one of those aircraft headsets. We try to answer back but there's no response. I called non-emergency but they said there weren't any reports of distressed aircraft or ships and even if there were, they couldn't do anything about it. Alternatively, a couple months later I saw a plane with an engine on fire go over my campus but apparently no one else did. You've been visited by the rare bread doggo. Comment toast well papa and be granted with great fortune in bread. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.